Hello, Burlington. My name is Romeo von Hermann. I am the host of the P3 show. It has been a year of an amazing experience, and since I've started this show sometime mid this year, it has been quite the experience, and I've learned a lot about talking to our members of the community, elected leaders, and just finding out some of the key issues that are happening in the city and what are some of the important things that are important to our residents and so on and so forth. So this episode, I just want to take the time to thank everyone for giving me the chance to speak to you directly through this platform, and the chance to have very incredible people to come on the show and speak to me, but also speak to you in tandem about issues that are happening in our city. It has been a very rewarding and yet tumultuous year for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, what is important is that regardless of the issues that we discuss or do or work on, that at the end of the day, good things will happen down the line. And there's a reason why we're all of us either listening to this show or many other shows like it on this channel, CCTV, Town Meeting TV. And I am incredibly grateful to everyone and everything in life. So this show, I just wanted to take the time just to thank you, everyone, and talk about the holidays, as well as a forward-looking statement, and just kind of share my thought process of the year in general, as all around what has been happening and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to begin with the 2024 Burlington, what that looked like for me personally, but I'm certain in part most of you share some of the things that happen in our city that we experienced together. One of the key things that happened this year was us electing our first female mayor in our city, which I think we should all be proud of in our city, and the fact that it is very refreshing to see somebody brand new, bringing brand new perspectives, but also just kind of changing the dynamics rather of having a female mayor in our city who brings a different perspective on her thought process on issues that happens in our city and what she thinks of it as well. So that was a very, very interesting look on how the city is transforming in terms of bringing brand new, fresh perspective to public service and other issues that need to be dealt with in our city. So I think one of the key things that I take away from our year of 2024 is that electing Mayor Emma Mulvaney-Stanek was a key highlight in our city. Of course, there was another key highlight that happened in our city that every Burlingtonian, and I'm sure most of the folks in the Northeast and entire United States experienced, which was the eclipse of 2024. So those, I think, were for me, and I'm probably certain that many of you have experienced. Those were two key points of highlight this year. Now, for me, why is that pretty highlight for me? Is that in order to progress in life, key important moments need to take place. Not just for me, but for everybody and for our city. Because our city is going through a very difficult, but a very progressive way of doing things towards a successful city. So in order to get to where we're going and our goals, we have to go through key points in our city's history. And I think the election of the town meeting day for 2024 was a highlight of that Burlington is turning the page, as it were, in electing our first female mayor. But also our city, one of the reasons why I believe that we had that election was our city was dealing with a lot of issues such as public safety, and we're still kind of ongoing issue really. But public safety, overdose issues and medical emergencies that are happening in our city and crime that are going on. Definitely not to the scale of big cities, but nonetheless for a small city that has about roughly 40 plus thousand people, or maybe less or more, depending on the amount of number of students that may or may not be here at any given time, it becomes much more visceral, as it were, what's happening in the city. So I think the way I'm looking at it is that that was an important part of the city. And so the election of 2024 town meeting day kind of highlighted that is something that we need to work on. And I believe it is a work in progress right now as we do speak. So moving on to the natural world we live in, and the highlight of the year for that being the eclipse that we have was very, very interesting, life-changing, and also something that it's just once in a lifetime. I mean, I'm sure there are other people who gets to see more than once in their lifetime, but for many of us, it will be once in a lifetime event. And I'm glad that I had the privilege of seeing that as a person, and for many of you in our city, that happening in front of us. And what an incredible moment to be alive and experience that in person and live here in Burlington to see that happen. Another thing that I look at between those two events is, and the year is not yet over, we're still got a couple more weeks to go, is the November election that we just had. You know, our nation, we tend to think that we're more divided than we're united, but I tend to think the opposite. We're more united than we're divided. Yes, we do disagree on a lot of fine points on who to elect, what are the key policies that we want to see on a federal level to be worked on or a state level to be worked on. Mind you, we also had the gubernatorial election also happening within November, where we re-elected our governor again and other key posts within the state house and the Senate as well, all around the state. So now the election was a very important point, but I think the two key highlights for our city has been electing of our mayor and also the solar eclipse, as it were. So what am I hoping to see by end of this year is hopefully that whatever we've learned from January through this December of 2024, that we use that as a tool to do much more positive work in the year 2025. And I know this is going to be a very challenging year, due in part that's maybe quite a number of folks may not agree. The next administration who's leading and their work that they're planning to do. But at the end of the day, what's important is that even if you do not like who is going to be the president or the vice president or the governor, that at the end of the day, we put that aside and work together, because we don't want to hold our country back for either one person or two people or three people. So I think going back to the highlights, Burlington year 2024, for me was those. I'm wondering if you see this on YouTube or any other platform, maybe you can comment on what was your highlight for the year 2024 here in Burlington, Vermont. If you are a resident of Burlington, Vermont, or if you've been a resident here in Burlington, Vermont, and you've lived within those two, within January through December in 2024, what that looks like for you. Now, we are pretty much in the midst of the holidays right now as we speak. Of course, holidays generally do begin sometime late in November. I'd say just right before Thanksgiving and into Thanksgiving all the way through January 1st. I would say even sometimes January 2nd. This holiday season here in Burlington, Vermont is being very interesting. A lot of great stuff happening. A lot of good events happening at the marketplace. I don't know if a lot of folks do go to the marketplace. There's a lot of great events happening there, and the Treasury Marketplace Commission and the Treasury Marketplace merchants and staff and the director are working on a lot of great stuff and items and events, and that you can see the tree is already up, and I believe there's more security being provided to allow shoppers and consumers and residents to be able to safely enjoy the festivities and show up at the downtown core area for this festive season. I know a lot of events is also happening in other parts of the city where you can participate. You can find many of them on townmeetingtv.com, cctvtownmeeting.com website. So you can check that on the comment section, or rather the bottom of the video, where usually you can find the link to Town Meeting TV, the events that are happening that you can participate, or you can go to treasurymarketplace.com and you can find the events that are happening in the downtown core this holiday season, any events that are happening relating to any on the north area or somewhere in the east, or maybe UVM is doing. You can go to UVM, their website, uvm.com, I'm sure, or .edu rather, and there's plenty of events that's probably happening as well there. So it's a pretty good time to have a good holiday season here in the city, and Burlington always really shows up for when it comes to holidays, to be honest with you. And it's, I don't know what to tell you, but it's pretty fun time, and a lot of great stuff is happening. Majority of students leave to go and spend time with their parents, but the residents who live here, work here, tend to be here and do a lot of fun activities, including the marketplace. And I think the Christmas market, I believe, is also happening. So you might want to go there and check out what folks are selling, or what are the new items that are there that may be very historic or very cool stuff to buy, and so on and so forth, or anything that you want to do during the holiday season here. What I would like to also add is besides the holiday, is a forward-looking statement. Knowing that this year, 2024, has been a very dynamic year that has brought a lot of questions about where does our city want to be in the next 20 years, the next 10 years? Where does Burlington wants to see 2025 moving forward? Is that we need to look at what has happened in the past year, the year prior, and what we are doing in order to address it. And what are some of the key projects that we want to work on in terms of public safety, overdose prevention, substance abuse disorders, drug paraphernalia sales in the city. And I'm sure some of the leaders here in the city probably know what's going on, and what are some of the key hot spots where this is happening, maybe sometimes in plain sight. So I think the important thing is that we need to kind of really step back for a moment, reflect what are the challenges and the successes of the year 2024, and apply that to 2025 and moving forward. I'm sure our city sets up a goal for each year and each decade on where we want to see our city in terms of progress, in terms of infrastructure progress, in terms of public safety, and in terms of having a very robust public safety personnel, including the police department, the fire department, and community service officers and community outreach response teams, and so on and so forth. So a lot of stuff need to be worked on, and I believe Burlington is much better than what it was, in all honesty, 2022 and 2023. Yes, we still do have challenges, but those challenges are not there without a reason. There are a lot of setbacks that we've done where we haven't necessarily stepped up into the plate and taken care of these issues. So it is incumbent of us to be able to say, okay, between January through December, these are the key issues that happened. What have we done to take care of it? and who have we brought in order to help us meet these challenges. So if you look at it, issues such as the relationship between our law enforcement and members of the community, what is Burlington doing to address that and work on bringing or having some kind of conversation with members of the police department and encourage them that, we are there for them and they're there for us. It's not us versus them mentality. Majority of the people, especially new folks that come into the city who are not used to what policing is like in America, especially new American families or immigrants or so on and so forth, or first-generation migrants and so on and so forth, are not necessarily used to policing in America. And so when they come in, the trust level isn't necessarily there. So what is our members of the public safety community is doing in order to fill that gap? Of course, another thing that happened this year is our Chief John Murad has resigned sometime in November, and he's scheduled to step aside early June, I believe, when the mayor nominates somebody else to come forward. And I believe the mayor will begin in earnest the process of bringing a new person to that post. While that happens, I'm hoping to see that our public safety community, our city leaders from the council to the mayor's office to anybody who's in position of trust to lead the city, irrespective of what that looks like, that they will take a moment to reflect on why the relationship between community members, the community in general, Burlingtonians, and I'm not saying it's everybody, quite a number of them don't have a very trusting relationship with our members, public safety community. It's not that they dislike folks personally, but it's just the relationship and the culture that has been developed for such a long time has festered, and I know Chief Murad is worked hard a lot to try to bring people together, hire a very diverse staff members, which I think Burlington's police department is far more diverse now than it's ever been since I've been here. And so I can commend on that, him doing that. But on the other hand, and I know the Burlington Police Department and Burlington Police Association don't feel supported, don't feel that the public's out there looking for their best interest. I think that can be rebuilt back to creating a place where the law enforcement association group can feel that we're there for them by us, citizenry, speaking public, how much we care about them and what some of the key things that we'll do in order to make sure that they know that we trust them, we care about them, and that we're behind them. But on the same token, that not just police department, but any public safety community member, that they take also their initiatives as well to create programs that bring people closer to the members of law enforcement community. Because right now, not just the Burlington Police Department, but just generally in Burlington public safety community, have difficulty hiring people, due in part because of people don't feel comfortable working for them, don't feel that, even if they got the job, that the community don't have their back. I think there's a little bit of a misnomer in this case that when this past election day, when people voted on to approve the oversight, I voted no, due in part because we already have a police commission that I felt has the responsibility to do that, rather than creating an independent panel, independent of the police commission and the mayor's office. I believe that's what that is, unless I'm wrong. So doing all that creates a little bit of distrust by the law enforcement community, thinking that, hey, we're out there to get them, we're creating this independent groups, independent public entities in order to kind of like get them, or trying to find out or try to dig more things that may or may not be there. So another thought process is that the police department already have their already existing process of dealing with complaints and reporting back to the police commission and so on and so forth. So why is there another layer of scrutiny, as it were? Why is there so many red tapes just to be a police officer or to be a member of the public safety community in this city? So I can see where that distrust will come in between members of the law enforcement community as well as members of the residents in the city. So in order to bridge that gap, I think it's important that the members of the law enforcement community, including the police department, do their due diligence on their part to creating programs that brings closer to the public, but also have a situation where our council does not every time put forward creating additional layers and red tapes just in order to find out what has happened to any members of the community. Of course, there should be guidelines and processes of finding out how things happen and how we can be best dealing with these public safety issues, including dealing with law enforcement that may or may not be biased against a specific public member. I personally do speak up when I see something that's wrong. I'm not afraid to say what is in my mind. I share that directly with the chief, share it directly with any relevant member of the members of the law enforcement, the police commission, and I encourage you to do the same if anything that happened in our city bothers you with respect to public safety or law enforcement or any other issues for that matter. It doesn't have to be just that. What am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is my forward-looking statement in the year 2024 is that we need to look out for each other. It's important that we get past being tribal. I think we often fall into the mentality of us versus them. It's us versus the police. Is the police versus these folks, or progressives versus Democrats, Democrats versus progressives, Republicans versus Democrats, Ward 6 versus this. It is really, tribal is one of the things that can lead a nation to fall down and fall down quickly. No matter how much there are guidelines and safeties and constitutions that are set up to be safeguards. So it is important that we go past being tribal and start working together as a city, as residents, as people who live on the same planet, who have almost close interest in what we want to do in life, but also what is important to us in life in general, for ourselves, for our families, and for our city. So I want to end on this, and I think it goes without saying that Burlington in 2025, what happens will have an effect on it in the next decade and a half to go. So as a new administration comes in 2025, let us work on ways to unite, irrespective of what happens at the federal level or at the state level or a city level. Let's work on uniting. Let's find out what are the things that we share in common and work slowly on what are things that we do necessarily not share in common. So it is a forward-looking statement. It's a one that I want to encourage everybody to take time to reflect these holidays and spend some time with their families and their friends and so on and so forth, and really think about where do we want to be as a city in 2025 and onwards, and so on and so forth. So that being said, I am grateful for this show, and I'm grateful for Kevin. I'm grateful for the team here at Town Meeting TV for giving me the chance to be here. And I know I'm blabbering a lot. This is the end of year show, so I think I'm permitted to just blabber and not make any sense. But at the end of the day, I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful for allowing me to speak to you directly from this platform and talk to you. Next year, we do have a lot of great plans coming up, and we have many more folks to meet here and speak to about what's happening in our city, about the upcoming inauguration, Public Works, Burlington Electric, Community Development Office, members of the University of Vermont Medical Center, and maybe re-invite our mayor as well, hopefully next year, to come and give us a feedback and a brief information about how the year is going, and also invite more counselors to come and join me. And not just Burlington. This show is just not for Burlington. This show is for the entire state. So hopefully, if I get a chance, maybe we'll invite the governor or the deputy governor or lieutenant governor in this case, and any other state representative or members of the public in any entity, both private and public service, to come here and share their thoughts on people power and politics in the city and in the state and in the country. So I thank you for that, and I wish you a happy end of 2024 and happy holidays and happy holidays entering 2025. So thank you for joining me, and my name is Romeo von Hermann, and I wish you guys a lovely, lovely holiday. Take care, everyone. Bye.